All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited about this next guest, man. This goes back to my JMU days, so you know this hits home. Now, this guy right here, man, he's the JMU women's basketball all-time winningest coach. He's coached he's been coach of the year numerous times. He's coached numerous player of the year, rookie of the year, defensive player of the year, WNBA draft picks. You name him, he's coached them. He's currently the head coach of the Virginia Tech women's basketball program, and he has over 400 career wins. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Coach Kenny Brooks. Coach, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome, man. I tell you what, it's great to be on with you. You know, I've always considered you like a little brother, watching you up in the stands, rooting for you. So I'm glad to be here in studio with you or talking with you.
Man, I definitely appreciate it. And like I said, man, you know, you are a legend. So it's all love. Now, man, hopping into it, you know, this past season, obviously it was kind of crazy because of how everything ended with the NCAA tournament being canceled. But your team, I mean, y'all were doing something special, had the opportunity to essentially get your first NCAA tournament bid. It would have been Virginia Tech's first bid since 2006. So just talk about ultimately how you and your team handled the news of the tournament being canceled and how things have been since then for y'all.
Man, I tell you, Arthur, it was just pure disappointment. And obviously, you know, coming from James Madison, where, you know, we had everything rolling and everything was, you know, going extremely well. And we were making, you know, consistent NCAA tournament appearances. It was almost the norm. So coming here, it was a reason that I came here. They wanted to get back to that level. And it took a little while for us to really, you know, get our philosophy in place and just trying to really change the culture, Virginia Tech women's basketball. And that takes time. And so we went through a few years of just heartache or just trying to, you know, implement our philosophy, our system and whatnot. And we felt like this was a year that we were going to be able to reap the benefits of our labor. And we put together a team that, you know, I've been coaching for, you know, almost 30 years. And I don't think I've ever had a team as close knit as this group. And they just really shared, you know, in each other's successes. They shared each other's failures. We won as a team. We did everything as a team. And they just listened to me and they believed in me. They believed in the things that I talked about. And I said, you know, if you guys sacrifice, we will win. You know, if you do this, you know, then good things will happen. And, you know, they never doubted. They just did it. They rooted for each other. You know, we had a tremendous year where when a lot of people thought we were going to, you know, fall off a little bit because we lost the WNBA draft pick. We lost our leading scorer. A lot of people thought we were going to, you know, be in a rebuild mode. And I just kept telling them, if you guys believe in each other and you work hard, you know, good things will happen. And they did everything I asked. And so for us to continue in the season, we finished tied for fourth in the ACC, which is one of the best leagues in the country. Off of that, just believing in each other. So when it was really time for us to hear our name called, you know, a culmination of 4 years of hard work and even more so for Virginia Tech women's basketball, it was like the rug got pulled out from underneath of us. You know, it's like preparing this beautiful meal and you get all the right ingredients and you put everything together and all of a sudden you just can't eat it. And so it's pure disappointment. And, you know, we kept hoping and praying that, you know, we were going to be able to play just to hear our name called. And when it didn't happen, you know, I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. And, you know, we did a lot of work. And to be honest with you, for a couple of days, I was depressed. I just laid in bed. I'm watching TV. I'm on Netflix. I even got to the point where I was watching Little House on the Prairie.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, what is going on? And the thing that really pulled me together is I just kept getting string of texts, you know, from the kids. And they were like, Coach, we know you work so hard. We feel so bad for you and the seniors. And, you know, this is, you know, you put so much into it. And when I kept getting texts like that, you know, I'm supposed to be in the leadership role to uplift them. And very quickly they were uplifting me. And for me, it just proved that we had a special team, a great team. And, you know, even though we didn't get our name called, just the work, you know, the effort that they put into it, it just goes to show you that, you know, this program has come a long way and we're looking forward to, you know, keeping the momentum going and building off of it.
I like it.
Coach, I was listening to some interviews online and you mentioned that you're really big on your family. Can you tell me why, and is there anything that you do in particular to make sure that you have your family as a priority? Like, is there anything that you just set up? Like, how do you set aside your time for your family?
Well, man, I tell you, family is everything. You know, coming from a close-knit group, you know, family when I was growing up, my days at JMU, and the way people embraced me there, and I just felt like it was a big family atmosphere. I always wanted a family of my own. And when I started later on in life, I didn't have my first child until I was almost 30. And obviously, I think when I had it, I was a little bit more mature at that point. And I had a little girl, and I wanted a little girl, and it's always daddy's little girl. And then my second child came, and I wanted a little boy, and she became a girl too. She was a girl. And so I was like, man, this must be an omen. I was on the men's side coaching basketball, and I'm like, somebody's trying to tell me something. And I had an opportunity to make a switch, and I switched over to the women's side. And once I did that, it was always a dream of mine to be able to coach my daughters. To coach my daughters, and I always had that that dream of being able to do that. And so I made that switch. And stuck with it. I always included my family around. That's the most important thing that happens to me. 5 years later, I had another daughter, so I knew I made the right choice switching over to women's basketball. And as I continue to grow, I always wanted them around. And if you go back to Harrisonburg and you talk to a lot of people in the JMU community, they watch my daughters grow up on the basketball court when they would run onto the floor with me after a game, or they were, always around me. And that's the most important thing to me. So as we've continued to grow our family is growing, and they're getting older. And they were very fortunate, because I'm probably one of the very few coaches in America that their children never moved until they were in their teens.
Wow.
And so they grew up in Harrisonburg, grew up in the Convocation Center, grew up in that community, and they didn't leave until my oldest was 18, my middle was 16, and my baby was 11, and that was the first time they'd ever made a move as coaches' kids. And so when we came here, I wanted to continue it. I gave my daughters the option, and my two older daughters have decided to play for me.
Man, that's awesome.
And they're here. They're here with me at Virginia Tech. For me, it really helped ease my transition, just having my whole family around. Just because leaving a school that you absolutely adore in JMU and starting a program over, there's some heartache sometimes, and them being around so much really helped. We came closer knit as a family. And one day I'm going to write a book, because not only have I coached one daughter, but I coached two at the same time.
Wow.
And, so that in itself, the things that we've gone through, the things that my children have gone through, just, being a coach's kid, playing for their dad, the good, the bad, the ugly, but it's all made them better people as a result of it. And our family is closer. So family is everything to me. And, it's my responsibility. I've often said, my biggest and most important responsibility is being a dad. And it's the best responsibility that I do have.
Was there ever a point where you felt like you were out of balance, maybe? Like, do you remember that time and place, perhaps, where you're like, I do got to spend more time with my family. I'm going way too much into the coaching realm here, where it's taking me out of balance?
All the time. And I think, and especially as a young assistant coach, you're always on call, and you're spending long hours in the office. And, a lot of times, my coach, Lefty Drizel, he always taught us, he said, don't mistake activity for achievement. And I think we would just sit in the office trying to last the head coach. We weren't even really doing anything, and I could have been spending time at home. and I'd get home, and I'd miss so much, because I missed their first steps, or I missed this, or I missed that. I became a head coach. It didn't change much, because you were on the grind. You were trying to establish yourself. And I remember when I would leave to go recruiting, and you would leave for weeks at a time. And my two older daughters, they were young, and they would cry. They would hang on my leg, and they were like, "Dad, don't go, please don't go." And it tore me apart. But I think what tore me apart even more was when they got a little bit older, and I was leaving for weeks at a time, and they were like, "Okay, Dad, see you later." And they had gotten used to it, and I'm like, "Oh, I had to reevaluate. I had to reevaluate what's really important." And so then I started including them in everything that we did, taking them on trips, letting them watch film with me. My middle daughter she boasts and brags now that she's really a smart basketball player. She says it's because I sat on his lap, because I knew that was my time to get with him alone. Right. And I'd watch film with him, and that's how he and I connected, was through basketball. And so those little moments in there, it's a lot of them, the things that you've missed. And, even as they're older right now, they'll tell stories and their mom will start laughing. And I'm like, I don't even know what they're talking about because I wasn't there. So it makes you feel bad because you've missed a lot. But my family's been wonderful. They understand. They know that it was done for them and for the family. But you do miss out on a lot of moments, and you realize that.
Man, that's beautiful though, hearing about that connection with your daughters. And going back to when you talked about switching to the women's side of basketball, I mean, to give people a little bit of backstory, you had just came off of being an assistant on the men's side at JMU that 93-94 season, and y'all were very successful. You won the CAA tournament. You got an opportunity to coach in the NCAA tournament. So just talk about how much of an adjustment for you, how hard was that for you to do that? And ultimately, did you ever have any second thoughts about it?
All the time, man. I always love the women's game. Coach Sheila Mormon, the legendary coach at JMU, she was the head coach there when I was on the men's side at JMU. And I'd always leave. The guys would leave practice and they would go to D Hall or PC Dukes to do whatever, and I'd always stick around and watch the women practice. I've always loved the game because I feel like it's in its purest form.
Yes.
The camaraderie, the high fiving, and you can just teach the game. So I always had an affection for it. I always loved it. So my connections obviously were on the men's side. So I got into the game on the men's side, but I always had an eye on the women's side. And so when I had the opportunity to switch over, the very first time I asked my wife, who was in favor. I asked Casey Carter, who always supported me and gave me great advice, and she supported the decision. But my mom was like, "Don't you dare do it."
Oh, wow.
My mom was like, "I don't like women's basketball. You're going to be the next head basketball coach at JMU on the men's side. Stick with it." And I got cold feet. And I didn't do it. Well, then 2 years later, the same opportunity came. And I talked to two people this time. I talked to my wife, who was in favor, and I talked to Casey Carter, for an hour. And, and a leap of faith, I took it. I jumped on it. As you can imagine, Arthur, the Daily News Record went crazy. The headlines was Brooks jumped ship, and it was like, it was crazy for a couple of days because it was awkward too, because I left a lot of the guys that I had recruited, the Dwayne Broyles, Chris Williams, and all those guys. And I went across the hall. And so when I did it, there wasn't a big adjustment period. And, I questioned myself. Did I make the right move? Did I not? I had even guys in the men's profession, talking about, yo, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? And so 6 months into my tenure as a assistant coach on the women's side, the head coach takes a leave of absence. And I'm thrust into this head coaching role. 6 months in, I had only seen 2 women's games from the bench. And my first game that I ever had to coach, ironically, was when we played at Virginia Tech.
Wow. Here
in Castle Coliseum. And I remember I'm yelling at the referees because I'm like, I want him to give a 5-second call, closely guarded call. I'm yelling at him. That's a 5-second call. That's a 5-second call, John. Finally, the third time I yelled at him, he came over and he said, "Kenny, there's no 5-second call in women's basketball." And I thought to myself, dang, it's a different sport. So I got to educate myself a little bit more. But ever since that moment, man, it's been smooth sailing. Those same guys who were asking me, what were you doing? I crossed paths with them now, and they say, man, you were a genius. You were ahead of the game. You saw it. But I've had opportunities to go back on the men's side. But I'm very comfortable where I am. I love the women's game. I love the sport. I love where our program is. And but it's been a fun journey, man.
Now, what were those 2 years like in between the time you initially denied coaching and going over to the women's side versus when you decidedly decided to make that jump? What were those 2 years like? What were you thinking? Were you constantly full of regret?
Very much so, because I knew it was in my heart. It was just going to take that leap of faith. It was going to take the courage to go against the norm. No one ever left the men's game on top of the men's game to go to the women's game. And it just wasn't being done. You had some guys who went from the men's game to the women's game because maybe they got fired or they didn't have a job or whatever the case might have been. And I think I got some side eyes from some of the women in the profession because they didn't know my intention. but my intention was pure because I wanted to be on the women's side. I wanted to be there. It wasn't big. I had to be there. I wanted to be there. And once they realized that, oh, he wants to be here, it's not just him trying to come over here and take advantage of a situation and take a job away from someone, then they accepted me. But those 2 years in between, it was a lot of regret. It's kind of like I felt like an opportunity slipped away. And when the opportunity came that second time, I called my wife real quick. She said, do it. I ran across campus. I left the convocation center, ran across campus, ran into Casey Carter's office. Casey Carter's our academic coordinator, Arthur.
Awesome lady. Yeah.
We tested out the best. And she and I sat and we talked for an hour. And then and you notice how I said I didn't call my mom.
I was about to say, you left mom out this time.
No, yeah, I left mom out of the equation. But the funny thing is, my mom absolutely loves women's basketball now.
Nice.
Loves it. Loves it. So, those 2 years, there was a lot of regret. I could have, should have, I would have. But I think it strengthened my just desire and understanding of where I really felt like I needed to be.
Okay. And now, when you've been talking about some of the people that you've coached on the women's side, I mean, Tamra Young, Lauren Okafor, and Reagan McGarity, just to name a few in terms of ladies that have went on to play in the WNBA under your tutelage. So just throughout your career, who would you say is the best player you've had the opportunity to coach?
Whoa, you're going to get me in trouble.
I mean, I've seen your list, man. You got some crazy people under there, man.
Hey, I tell you this, man, and I've always said it to my girls, and this is not a sexist statement or anything, but in women's basketball, you got to treat them fair. So if you see one and their hair looks nice, you better tell them all their hair looks
Very
nice.
true.
So I you have daughters, so you can't go in there and you can't say, hey, she was the best or whatever, because they listen. I got in trouble last year. I think I said this team was the best team that I had.
Oh,
and
man.
Quickly, man, my JMU girls, they were blowing me up. So trust me when I say that I have coached a lot of wonderful young players. But you can't go without mentioning Tamra Young. You can't go without mentioning Jasmine Gwathmey and Kirby Burkholders. And I got a couple kids here now that I think they're really rival, the kids that I had at JMU. So I'm really, really excited about that.
I like that. smart
hey, was that a good political answer?
Hey, trust me, that's the way you got to go sometimes. I'm with you.
Yeah.
No, during your time, obviously, we talked about some of the talented players that you coached, but you also had a chance to coach against one of the best players that we've ever seen, both in the CAA and in the WNBA, in terms of Elena Delle Donne. Now, when you were coaching against her at the University of Delaware, what was that like for you? And did you feel when you saw her in college that she was going to be able to dominate the way she does in the WNBA now?
Well, I tell you what, I knew I was witnessing greatness. And I always laugh and joke right now. And even if I see Elena right now and talk to her, she's the reason that we didn't have 7 championships in a row.
Yeah.
When we won 2, and she was like a freshman and sophomore. Her junior and senior year, she won the championship, and then right after her, we won 3 in a row. So we won 5 out of 7. And if it weren't for her, we would have been able to get 7 in a row. But you talk about a generational talent. I mean, this kid was 6'5", or is 6'5", guard skills. She'd go on the block. You double team her, she'd hit somebody for an open shot. She'd take a bigger person out on the perimeter. If you touched her, she shot like 99% from the free throw line. So it was like almost impossible to try to stop her. You just had to try to make it difficult for her. And one of the best performances I've ever encountered. Now I'll give you a little backstory. We were about to play them her freshman year, if I'm not mistaken. And I never really seen her up close and personal. So we had our practice players, and our practice players are consisted of males. And I had a couple kids on there, and one in particular, he was 6'4", 6'5". He actually became my director of operations. He's my director of operations now. And so we had him being on the scout team as Elena Delle Donne. And so I'm trying to rally the team up, and I told him to, go at it and, score whenever he could. And I'm yelling at the team. I'm like, if you guys don't play better, she's going to come in here. She's going to get 50 on you guys, and she's going to embarrass you guys in the convocation center. And you guys better take it serious. Well, we're playing them, and we're winning the game. We had Dawn Evans, if you remember Dawn Evans.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, it is like a one-on-one battle. Those two are just going at it. And Elena, we held her in check pretty much. Towards the end of regulation, I think she only had like 32. You hear I said check,
Right.
held her in check for 32.
32.
And they ran a play. We're up 3. They ran a play at the waning moments. 5, 4. They threw it to her, and she was right in the line sight of the basket with me. They're on the other end, and she shot about a 35-footer. And when that thing let go, I looked at her. I looked at the ball. I said, "That's right on the money." And I just turned around, didn't even watch it go in, and I heard the Convocation Center crowd go, "Ooh!" And I'm like, "Yeah, it must have went in." And then from that point on, we went overtime, and she finished the game with 55 points.
Yeah.
Okay, 55 points. Now we got the win, but she had 55 points. And I just walked away thinking she's going to be a problem. She's going to be a problem. And just to watch her, she's a generational talent, and watch what she's done in the WNBA. I can't say that I thought she was going to dominate to the point where she's going to be MVP or the best player in the world, but it doesn't surprise me. And it's a lot of fun to watch her. But she really elevated our league. It was fun competing against her. My kids love competing against her. But she was definitely fun to go against, but a pain in the neck sometimes too.
Man, yeah, that game was crazy. That was 2010, I want to say, man. So yeah, it was nuts.
No, the good old days.
Oh yeah. Now, going back to one of your former players in Tamra Young, who, like you said, lit it up at JMU. She's still having a crazy WNBA career as well, but she's also taken on the reality TV star as well, man. Being a part of Loving Hip Hop Atlanta, big reality show. So my question is, have you ever watched her in some of the shows, and do you ever talk to her about the shows and stuff?
I watch her when I can, when I'm flipping through. I don't really watch a whole lot of reality TV. I say we don't, but I will find myself on a Sunday afternoon watching episode after episode of something, Kardashians or something. And I'm like, what? What am I doing? But I have seen her on it. I talk to her. She and I probably talk once a week still. And I tell you what, Arthur, man, I'm so proud of her, because when she was at JMU, she would freeze and I put a microphone in front of her.
Wow. And,
from what she's done and where she's come, not only on the basketball court, but, she has her own clothing line. And, you look at her, she has so much style and grace, and, she's just a wonderful kid. She represents, man. She represents JMU to the fullest. Very, very proud of her. And I often tell her she's my OG. She's the one, she was the first kid I ever signed.
Wow.
And how about that? She was my first kid I ever signed. And
that's a great first kid to sign.
That's great. Heck, it didn't get any better than that ever. But still, she often thanks me for believing in her, and I often thank her for making me the coach that I am, because I had to learn how to push her. I had to learn how to get the best out of her, and not just settling. And, I'd find different ways to elevate her game. And there'd be times in practice where I would put her on one team with the subs and put the rest of the starters on the other team.
Oh, wow.
And just to challenge her, and wouldn't call any fouls for her. And, she'll call me today and thank me for that, because it made her tougher. And now she knows what I was doing to her, just trying to get her to be as good as she could possibly be. But that's my baby, man. She's my baby, and she we talk, and I'm so proud of her and what she's done.
Now, you mentioned you coaching your daughters earlier in the podcast here. What was that recruitment process like? Were they actually thinking about going somewhere else?
My oldest daughter, no. My middle daughter, yes.
Ooh, okay.
And, yeah. It's just, that middle child syndrome. They're always going to try to rock the boat.
And you said this was the middle child was the one that would watch film with you all the time, right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. She through my oldest child, easygoing, kind of would go with the flow, and I gave her opportunity, and she told me early that she wanted to play for me. And so basically what I did from that point on, we did the AAU circuit a little bit, but it was more me and her in the Convocation Center, putting her in position that she would be successful in my system. So I didn't have to put her with a trainer that was going to show her all these, chair moves and 2-ball dribbling and stuff that she wasn't going to be able to utilize. Yeah, her strength was to shoot the basketball. It wasn't as athletic as some, but she had good size, and so I knew how she was going to be able to benefit me and how she was going to be able to be successful in my system, and it was as a shooter. And so, a lot of people would say, well, she's not good enough to play for you at JMU. And then when I came to Tech, you're going to have a lot of haters out there. And so they were downplaying it. She can't do this. She can't do that. She came here, Virginia Tech, her freshman year, and she broke the single season record for freshmen for most threes in a season.
I think gonna shoot, baby. Yeah,
shooter's gonna shoot. Hey, it's always room for a shooter.
Absolutely.
And one of the best stories I ever had coaching her, we were at Boston College and we were playing, and she got that thing going. I mean, she was knocking them down. And I'm in coach mode, so I'm like coaching the next play. I'm coaching the next play, and a referee kind of walks up beside me during one of the little breaks, and she made 7 threes in that game. And so he kind of walked up to me and he whispered to me, he said, she must have got that from her mother. Ooh. And I just started dying laughing. And for that, I had to say, you know what? I am dad. I got to congratulate her. I got to pat her on the butt. You did a tremendous job. You've done something I've never done. I've never made 7 threes in a game, but she tied my career high in 1 year and took me, 4 years to do it in college. So that was a tremendous experience for me. And, it was tough going for her because she came into a system where, Coach Brooks is trying to change the philosophy, the culture, but also threw her in the locker room. So she took a little bit of the brunt, but I think she's, a lot better for it. Then my middle child she's not as good of a shooter, but she, just understands the game, knows it. So during her recruitment process, I said, hey, look, so these coaches are calling me. They're asking if you're open. What do you want to do? And she says, well, I want to go ahead and take some visits. I said, okay. Well, you take a visit, just understand that I have to open your scholarship up. And if somebody comes in and takes it, then it won't be there. She looked at me. She said, all right, I'm coming to JMU. And I said, okay, which turned into Tech. But I had to convince her a little bit, with that persuasive parenting like we have to do sometimes.
Well, because I was going to say, like, how do you even recruit your daughter and at the same time allow her to be recruited by other people? Like, are you showing up? Because I'm thinking of when I was recruited, my parents were coming to the visits with me. Like, imagine you're at JMU at the time and Delaware wants to recruit your daughter. You're like, hey, what's up now?
Yeah. I even tried to use them a little bit. I said, hey, let's go on a visit to Delaware somewhere and see how they do things. But I said, nah, we're not going to waste anybody's time. But it's been unique. And I have another one. I have another child, another daughter. Who probably is she right now as a freshman in high school. She's taller than the other two already.
Okay.
She's probably more talented, just not as motivated. So we got to get her going and see what she's going to do in the next couple of years.
I like that. It's a good problem to have. I'll tell you that.
Not bad at all.
Now, speaking of your collegiate career, man, while you were playing, you had a chance to play under Coach Lefty Driesell. So just talk a little bit about, man, what that was like for you and how did that experience help you as a coach?
Man, I tell you, when I played for him, I thought he was the absolute most crazy person I've ever seen in my life. And, he's yelling all the time. And it's like, why are you yelling? Why are you doing this? And, we get in the locker room and we always say, Coach Driesell's crazy. We laugh and we joke about it, the things that he did. And, I graduated. And when I graduated, he got me into the coaching profession. So he called me and my interview was, he said, hey, Kenny. I said, yes, sir. He said, you want to coach? Yes, sir. All right, be up here Monday. And I'm like, okay, that was my interview, so I got up there Monday and, I saw the game from a different side and I saw him from a different side. And so now when he was doing some of those things to the guys on the floor, I was into the meeting and I was privy to why he was doing it. And it all made sense. I'm like, oh, that's why he did that. Oh, that's why he was doing that. And so, he got me into it and I continued on and, made the transition and, he continues to follow me to this day.
Nice. And
he'll call me once a year and he'll send me a note, hey man, you playing too much zone, or stuff like that. And but I find myself doing the things to my kids that he did to me. And probably early on in my career at JMU, I'm like, man, this seems familiar what I'm doing to these kids. And I'm like, it's what Coach Driesell did. And I just had an epiphany one day. I'm like, you know what? this guy has really influenced me as a man, as a coach. And I really need to thank him. And I appreciate what he did. And it's kind of funny because a lot of my former teammates will come back and they want to still talk about how crazy he was. And I don't even contribute to those conversations because I'm like, you guys just don't understand. That dude was a genius. That guy was the most caring guy because he was teaching us how to be men without coddling us all the time. I learned more from the trials and the tribulations than I did from my successes at JMU. And, it could have been easy because I could have ran, I could have left. I didn't get the playing time I wanted to, or, didn't get the shots that I wanted to. But I learned more from, sticking it out, being tough and dealing with him and how he way he just came at us and everything. And that made me a better person and a better coach. And so the biggest thrill that I had with him when he finally got inducted to the Hall of Fame, I'm lobbying for it, just like I'm lobbying for Casey Carter to be into the JMU Hall of Fame. I'm lobbying for it. I'm hoping that it happens. And when it finally happened, man, I was so happy for him. And when he's giving his acceptance speech, man, he's got the whole crowd rolling because everyone knows Lefty. He's captivating. He holds an audience, and he's got everybody rolling on the floor. I mean, you see Coach K rolling on the floor. You see, all these people are just, you understand what he means to the game. And he gets into his speech, and he gets to a serious part in his speech, and he says, I'm really proud of everybody, my former players. He said, I got 2 former players that are head coaches right now. And then he paused. And then he just kept on going. And I was like, man, he was about to say my name. and I'm like, oh, man. So he calls me a week later after the ceremony. And, I'm blushing all over him. I'm like, Coach, you did a great job. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy. And he says, Kenny, I want you to know. He said, I was going to say your name in my speech, but I forgot your name.
Oh, wow.
and I just started laughing because it was just a moment. And I said, Coach, man, I knew you were talking about me. And that's one of the proudest moments that I've ever had because I knew you were thinking about me at one of your most prominent moments that you deserved. But that man has really influenced me more than I knew at the time. But as I get older, the more and more I appreciate it. And he definitely has a lasting effect on me and my coaching career.
Man, that's awesome to hear. And shout out to Coach Lefty, man. He's a legend. Everybody knows that. Now, being that you played at JMU, did you feel any added pressure once you took over as the head women's basketball coach there?
Oh, man, you have no idea. It'd be like if you went back and you had that headset on.
Oh, man.
Because man, it's not, at that point, it was not a job. Okay. At that point, that's my school.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That was a responsibility that I had, not only to my players, but to that community, to the people who gave me the opportunity to take over that program. And so it wasn't even just about the wins and the losses. It was like, how do we conduct ourselves? How do we carry ourselves? How do we walk around town? Did we represent the program the right way? When we were out there playing, it got to the point we were winning. We were winning and winning so well. My last 3 years there, we were 60-3 in conference.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So it didn't become are you winning? Are you winning with grace? All right. So then it was like, okay, all right, I gotta have a proud product out there. Proud product. So every game, my wife would look at me and she says, "Why are you so nervous?" And it says, because I don't want to disappoint anyone. And that pressure right there, I put more pressure on me than JMU administration could have ever put on me.
Wow.
Because it was my school. It was our school. And I was very proud of that moment. And so, everything I did for that program, it was with love, with love. And when it came time for me to have to make a decision whether I was going to move on or not, man, that was the hardest decision I've ever made in my life. The absolute hardest decision. I mean, I cried. I was like, I still don't know what made me continue on with the process, because you're leaving everything that you love. Cut me open now. Yeah, I'm going to bleed purple. You just can't take that out of you. You can't take it out of you. And, what we had at JMU, the experience is not just me coaching, but me playing, me going to school there, the pride that we have, it was hard. It was hard. So, I'm glad it was that way, because it meant a lot to us. It means our experiences were ones that we treasure. some people go through the experience and they don't like their college experience.
Right.
We loved ours. It's home, and we're very proud of everything that even happens with JMU now. So that pressure I put on myself was intense. So I look at like Lewis Rowe and what he was going through, and I try to offer condolences or just be there for him as much, because people don't understand. It's not just, okay, you're failing at your job, you're failing at your community, the community that kind of raised you. And that was the things that really, motivated me. I motivated me out of fear, made me work harder. If I didn't feel like watching film anymore, it made me watch it a couple more hours just so we were prepared, because it was my school.
Man, you're absolutely right, though, about that JMU connection, man. You feel it. It's different.
Hey, look, man, I'm a Cowboy fan, but I was rooting for you like heck when you playing for, I can't even say it, the Steelers. I mean, what am I doing here? And it's funny. I love football, but mainly everybody, what they do, they look at the quarterback, look at the running back, where's the ball going? Right. But I'm watching you. I'm looking at the linebacker.
I like it.
That's my guy, because you my JMU guy. So.
Man, respect, man. Trust me, I definitely appreciate that. It means a lot, especially coming from you. And now, we in the NFL, we always talk about our welcome to the NFL moments, or for the NBA, you get your welcome to the NBA moment. So just talk about your welcome to college basketball moment as a coach.
Oh man, it's a lot. I think the biggest one that I had, I was on the men's side. I was coaching at JMU, and I just left JMU. I just left VMI. I went to VMI, cut my teeth as an assistant. Was fortunate enough to be able to come back to JMU and be an assistant coach under Sherman Dillard. And again, it's our alma mater, and pride. And we're playing VMI, and I'm the assistant coach. We're playing VMI. Kids that I have recruited to VMI, and at VMI we were always chomping at the bit to get a piece of JMU. All right, so finally the game got scheduled, but I was on the JMU side, and so Sherman Dillard, the game's not going well, but we're down by 15. And the VMI guys, they're pumped up, and they're pressing us all over the place, and they're whooping us pretty good. Sherman gets a little upset, and he gets a technical foul. And, I'm like, oh, coach, you got to calm down. Well, as Sherman is walking away from the referee that called a technical on him, he's giving him a few choice words as he's walking away. But he unbeknownst to him, he's walking towards the other referee. And the other referee hit him with another one. Bam, that's a second technical. I'm like, coach, you got to calm down. You can't get another way. And halfway through my sentence, I'm like, oh my goodness, I got a coach now. And I had never called a timeout before. I've always been that assistant coach. It was always easy to say, we should have called a timeout, or we should have ran this. It's easy to say that after the fact. And all of a sudden, I was the head coach. And we're down 15 to the team that I had helped recruit on the other side. And I stood up, and I remember walking up and down that sideline, and I thought to myself, man, it is hot up here. I got to take my jacket off. And I took my jacket off. I got armpit sweat going on. I'm like, what is going on here? And people kept coming at me, and they were like, hey, what do you want to run here? Hey, we should probably do this. Players coming over. Hey, do you want this going on? And I'm like, man, this is fast. I mean, everybody, like I just wanted to go hide somewhere. And then we got that thing rolling, and all of a sudden we start coming back, and they look over at me, what play you want to run? And look, and nobody knows to this day, but I'm guessing. I'm like, 2. Let's run 2. And all of a sudden it works. I'm like, all right, okay. We want right now. Let's try 3. And it's working. And all of a sudden we take the lead, and we start rolling. We end up winning the game by 15, right? And, so, I mean, emotions coming from everywhere. I just beat the team that I helped recruit. I'm at JMU, my alma mater. Oh my goodness, I didn't call a timeout. I'm conducting the huddle. Man, this thing is all right. I kind of like this head coaching thing. And that was my big moment to like, you know what, you can do this. Man. You can do this, and you feel comfortable doing it. And so that was my welcome to college coaching moment, even though I had been an assistant for a little bit, but that was probably my biggest moment right there.
Man, that's an awesome story right there, man. And shout out to Sherman Dillard. We actually had him on as a guest as well, man. He's an awesome cat, man. So
yeah, he is, man. He is.
Good to see that JMU connection right there, man.
Yeah, I owe him a lot. Again, a lot of the JMU connection has helped guide me and has really helped put me in this situation that I'm in right now. So I'm always forever grateful for that.
I like it. Well, Coach, man, we definitely appreciate you again for hopping on the podcast with us, man. It's been a blast. We wish you nothing but the best going into this next season, and stay safe and healthy as well.
I appreciate you guys, man.
Yep.
You guys are awesome. Anything I can ever do for you, I'm always rooting for you guys. But just let me know.
I appreciate it. And
Appreciate
likewise.
it. Thank you.
All right, go Dukes.
Yay.